An open letter to students returning to school in 2017. Hey, it's Prince of Queens, and I would be doing a disservice to the universe if I were to make the abstract claim that we need you. That would sound like I'm referring to a specific group of people, but it's much more than that. It's not a broad demographic of free speech advocating political pundits that need you. Rather, the truth needs you. Freedom needs you. And while I know it sounds hyperbolic to say so, I literally do believe that people's lives depend on it. You see, as this summer comes to a close, it seems not a weekend has gone by without extensive political violence, and it's almost unanimously fitting of the same description. If you are watching this channel, I can assume you are aware of this. What always happens is that an organization plans a rally, usually right-wing, almost unanimously unified around free speech, and then the media, along with obviously crooked organizations like the Southern Poverty Law Center, knowingly misrepresents what the rally is all about and paints it out to be white supremacists or even Nazis. At which point, they are protested violently by left-wing radicals, or peacefully by people who are probably nice overall but are still clueless. All the while, the police tend to stand down, and the same media that set this all up doesn't report accurately on it at all in terms of the violence that happened, usually claiming the Nazis started it. People are very deliberately kept in the dark about the actual nature of the escalation of violence, based off of more or less absurd claims. And of course, the internet and the usual social media giants are facilitating this escalation of violence as if they want things to get worse. You should really watch Independent Man's video about the left overplaying their hand, which I will link in the description, regarding all of this and how ridiculous it really is. It's not simply that they call people like Steve Bannon a Nazi, even though members of the alt-right don't particularly like the guy and they say so publicly, nor is it simply that they call Milo Yiannopoulos alt-right and a Nazi, even though he's gay, and his book on the New York Times bestseller list has an entire second chapter that's called Why the Alt-Right Hates Me. No, it doesn't matter, because these same people call Ben Shapiro a Nazi, and he's an Orthodox Jew that wears a yarmulke around. Of course, anybody could listen to these people defend themselves and realize how untrue these allegations are, but these same types of people do their best not to allow it. They try to shut them down and censor them every chance they get. And it's not just the white guys that they do this to. Oh no, Joy Villa and Diamond and Silk are also supposed to be Nazis, of course, because although they are all black women, they support Donald Trump very vocally, and everybody is completely sure that Donald Trump will be Hitler any day now. Similarly, the black and brown members of Patriot Prayer are all supposed to be Nazis too. And how are far leftists stopping this supposed fascism? This weekend in San Francisco, a man got his phone stolen and was wrapped up in a banner so that he couldn't get it back because he was wearing a polo shirt. I guess that made him a Nazi. But perhaps the funniest or saddest incident in recent weeks was when a counter-protester to the free speech rally in Boston was sucker punched because they thought that he was a Nazi, even though he was there to protest Nazis himself. But it gets even crazier. Antifa punched a black man at a Black Lives Matter protest in Texas because he was demanding that the Antifa member take off his mask due to people suspecting the Antifa member of being a police officer. And in Berkeley just today, massive random violence towards innocent people was happening left and right, which you can find video footage all over Twitter. And yet again, police are largely standing down and news is basically not reporting on it. But are we surprised? Truthfully, this has been going on for numerous years. Basically, every single horrific event that you could expect to shake up an entire nation or the entire Western world has happened repeatedly. And yet the media and many politicians keep brushing it under the rug. The media's apologetics for Islam is no secret, and how much violence has come from Islamic extremism in the West since 2015 alone? There's hundreds and hundreds of people dead. Furthermore, there's still people to this day that say that Orlando was just a random crime of toxic masculinity coming from a closet case, despite the fact that he called 911 to say that he was pledging allegiance to the Islamic State. Then there's the sniper that killed all of those cops in Dallas and pledged allegiance to Black Lives Matter, claiming that he wanted to kill cops and especially white cops, but of course, somehow that had absolutely nothing to do with Black Lives Matter, which is still supposed to be a peaceful movement, even though there had already been numerous riots by the time that that happened, and there were more afterward where white people were being targeted and beat up for being white. And then, of course, we have the young special needs man who was kidnapped and tortured for 48 hours for being white, broadcasts on Facebook Live while his captors chanted, "Fuck white people, fuck Donald Trump." And the media tried to ignore that too until it became viral, and countless people still had the audacity to say that it wasn't racism because you can't be racist against white people. I could obviously go on. I could go on and fucking on about actual crimes and violence, but we even have massive non-violent webs of lies that you probably know about, but I want to refresh your memory just a bit. We have Anita Sarkeesian and the rest of the Gamergate crew, famous for being caught red-handed by dozens of YouTube gamers when she posed as a gamer, stole people's game playthroughs, completely mischaracterized the games that she was criticizing, lied relentlessly about the people who caught her and called them all sexist, even the women. Then, somehow, magically, she got a speaking engagement with the United Nations and tried to redefine harassment to include calling a woman a liar on the internet, which should not be taken lightly because a woman was supposed to be our next president when that happened. And even to this day, even after she swore at Sargon of Akkad at VidCon from the microphone unprovoked, these people are covering for her. The founders of VidCon apologized to her. And the show went on. Is there any honest coverage of Anita Sarkeesian in mainstream media? No, not at all. Is there any honest coverage in the leftist blogosphere like The Guardian, Salon, and the rest of the things that show up on your Facebook timeline? Of course not. Even though millions and millions of people have watched the videos that prove she's a liar. Why? Why are mainstream audiences not hearing about this? I'm not exactly sure. But you can use your own head. Furthermore, we have people like Stephanie Guthrie, who launched a cyberbullying campaign against a young man for creating a Flash game, and when Gregory Allen Elliott objected on Twitter, she got Gregory Allen Elliott arrested and banned from the internet for 3 years while he was put on trial for harassment, which he was found not guilty of. But has this been reported on outside of independent YouTube media? Of course not. And if it is reported on, it's still painting out Guthrie to be the victim. Finally, in regards to feminism, what about what's happened to Cassie J, maker of the Red Pill documentary, and how she's been smeared in media, especially in places like Australia, where they had her on a news program and lied to her face in real time, claiming that they couldn't watch the film The Red Pill that they went on to lie about because supposedly she hadn't even sent it, when she actually really had sent it to them. All of this is old news to this corner of YouTube, but I want you to refresh your memory about it, because all of this is completely insane, and since you are students, you might not have perspective on this. But it didn't used to be like this. Not this bad. The media at large used to at least pretend to attempt to tell the truth when I was younger, but not these days. And Obama did legalize the usage of propaganda on the American people in 2012, remember. Look, young people, here's my message to you. Us YouTubers can't do it without you. The truth can't do it without you, because there's a small but well-connected population of media workers out there that are being paid to lie, and there's a massive amount of people who believe their lies, and they coordinate their lies with each other. Fortunately, there's an even more massive amount of people who don't believe their lies, but these people far too often remain silent. Why? Well, I'm not sure why the closet cases who are opposed to fourth wave intersectional feminist social justice sit idly with a gag on in every instance. But considering the fact that I know several of these people in real life, and I have gotten countless comments from people similarly silent below my videos on my channel, I can make a few guesses. You are afraid for your personal comfort, and you think it's going to blow over without you having to say anything. And I understand the feeling, I really do. But it won't blow over. It's only a matter of time before you get attacked by SJWs, at least socially. So I suggest that you draw your own personal line in the sand from this point onward. Now granted, when we have countless black and gay people being accused of being Nazis, and people protesting Nazis getting sucker punched because they were suspected of being Nazis, there's obviously something to fear. But that's also precisely why you should be speaking out. If they'll attack them, they'll eventually attack everybody. When we have anti-racist progressives like Brett Weinstein being called racist at Evergreen College for doing what he thought was non-racist, and the university erupted into literal anarchy as the president let the protesters take over the school for days, there is obviously a reason to be wary on college campuses. But here's the thing. This is not going to blow over in your sphere until you make it. You can't get this nonsense out of your life until you speak up, each and every one of you. You don't have to make a YouTube channel, though I think it would be awesome if you did. But if you care about your freedom, our freedom, you need to speak up. The court of public opinion is not on these people's side, and the control left is panicking. That's a good name for them, the control left. James Damore was fired from Google for telling the truth. But look at what that actually really did. It showed just how big the corruption really is, even in the corporate tech world. And it turned out that it made him a cultural hero, thus prompting several other people in the tech industry to speak out against all of this identity politics-oriented authoritarian nonsense. But this battle isn't over, because we still need you too. What are you afraid of, really? At this point, even on liberal college campuses, there are definitely more of you than there are SJWs. But you just have to start speaking out. The truth needs you in the trenches speaking your truths and asking the right questions. You don't need to advocate for any political agenda, because if you've noticed, I don't have one myself. You can hate Trump all you want, while at the same time admitting that it is true that there really has been endless violence coming from the left. You can raise your hand in class and ask if you can show people YouTube videos on your phone to prove the violence coming from people like Antifa. And even if your teacher says no, even if you don't get to show it to people, you can still show students after class. At least you brought people's attention to it. You can denounce white identitarians in the same sentence as pointing out that leaders of the white separatist movement are literally thanking the far left for being violent and crazy, because leaders of the alt-right like Jared Taylor feel it will help them recruit new members when the left keeps scaring people with racially motivated violence. Also, if you have a feminist teacher that starts lumping white nationalists in the same bracket as men's rights advocates, you can defend MRAs without necessarily pledging allegiance to the men's rights movement. All you have to do is raise your hand and talk about the film The Red Pill and mention that people can watch it for free on Hulu. Even if your teacher gets mad at you, it could inspire somebody to watch it and start to be deprogrammed themselves. I know some of you will get into arguments with your friends when you start talking about subjects like this, but I swear to God that you'll be happier after you do it. And I promise you that speaking out will attract new friends out of your pool of acquaintances who already agreed with you but were afraid to speak out themselves. I've been through this more than once at age 35. Finally, what I really want you to do is to ask your social justice teachers leading questions. I'm not asking you to argue with them. I am asking you to get them to reveal what their end goal is. Because more often than not, it will be self-discrediting if taken to its final conclusion. When your feminist professor talks about ending patriarchy, ask her what she wants to replace the supposed patriarchy with, and what that would look like. And when she politely explains her utopian vision of a world of basically female supremacy, try to come prepared with some historical accounts of female rulers, and whether or not that was actually utopia. Similarly, when your sociology professor talks about ending white supremacy and how racism is a system that everybody is born into that must be dismantled at all times, ask the right questions and get them to explain what system will be put in its place. Don't let them be vague. Force them to be specific about it. Once the system of white supremacy is gone, what replaces it? It will be very interesting to hear. Now, I know you might get a bad grade in class, but it will be worth it for the new friends that you'll make. And if there's enough of you, maybe not all your grades will be all that bad. That's all I have to say for this video. Good luck in the coming school year. And remember, the fate of all those who are curious rests in your hands, young people of the West.